Commander Lyra Voss stood in the control center of New Haven Colony and watched her world die. Through the large crystal windows, she could see the orange glow of fires spreading across the silver spires of her city. The beautiful towers that had taken her people 50 years to grow from living crystal now cracked and fell under the relentless attack of the Ravager ships. Lyra pressed her thin blue hand against the cool surface of the communication console. Her large dark eyes reflected the chaos outside as explosions lit up the twilight sky of Kepler 442c. The Zephyrians had never built weapons of war. They did not know how to fight. Their entire civilization was built on peace, harmony, and gentle cooperation with the natural world around them. "Commander, the eastern sector has fallen," reported Keeper Tam, his voice shaking with fear. His translucent skin had turned pale white, a sign of extreme distress among their people. "The Ravagers are using their biomechanical beasts to tear through our barriers. Our shield generators cannot hold much longer." Lyra nodded slowly. She had expected this news. The Ravagers were a nomadic species that traveled from world to world, consuming everything in their path. They used living ships that grew like tumors in space, and their ground forces were a mix of organic creatures and mechanical parts that could adapt to any environment. They had destroyed dozens of peaceful colonies across the galaxy. "How many civilians have we evacuated to the underground?" "Shelters?" Lyra asked. 15,000 are safe below ground," Tam replied. "But we still have 8,000 people trapped in the outer settlements. The Ravager creatures have cut off all the escape routes." Lyra closed her eyes and felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. She was young for a commander, only 200 years old by Zephyrian standards. But she had been chosen to lead this colony because of her ability to make difficult decisions. Now she faced the most difficult decision of her life. "Send the distress signal," she said quietly. Tam looked at her with surprise. "Commander, the Galactic Council has already refused to help. They say the Ravagers are too dangerous. The peaceful Alliance worlds will not risk their own people for us." "Then we send it to everyone," Lyra said, turning to face the main communication array. "Every world, every species, every civilization that might be listening. Someone out there might care enough to help." Tam hesitated. "Commander, the power required for a galaxy-wide broadcast will drain our remaining energy reserves. We will have no power left for weapons or shields." "What good are weapons and shields to us?" Lyra asked with a bitter laugh. "We are a peaceful people, Tam. We never learned to fight. Our weapons are tools for mining and construction, not war. Our shields are made to protect us from storms and radiation, not from creatures that eat metal and stone." She moved to the communication panel and began entering the broadcast codes. Her fingers moved quickly across the bioluminescent controls that responded to her touch with soft blue light. The Zephyrian technology was beautiful and organic, grown rather than built, shaped by centuries of harmony with their environment. "Preparing. Galaxy-wide emergency broadcast," announced the gentle voice of the colony's central intelligence, a biocomputer that had grown from Zephyrian neural tissue. "Warning, this action will consume 78% of remaining power reserves." "Do it," Lyra commanded. The communication array began to glow with intense white light as it gathered power from every remaining source in the colony. The lights dimmed throughout the control center as energy flowed into the massive transmission system. Outside, the Ravager attacks continued, their biomechanical ships firing streams of acid that dissolved the crystal spires like ice in hot water. Lyra spoke into the communication device, her voice steady despite the terror in her heart. "This is Commander Lyra Voss of the Zephyrian colony on Kepler 442c. We are under attack by the Ravager horde. Our defenses have failed. our people are dying. We have children here, families, elders who have lived for 1,000 years and have never known war. To any civilization that receives this message, we beg for your help. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight these creatures, but we know how to be grateful. We know how to be friends. If you help us, we will share everything we have learned about living in peace with the natural world. We will teach you our biotechnology, our methods of growing cities from living crystal, our ways of healing without causing harm. Please, if there is anyone listening, if there is anyone who believes that peaceful people deserve to live, help us. We are dying. The transmission burst outward from Kepler 442c at faster than light speed, carrying Lyra's desperate plea across the galaxy. It reached the great trading worlds of the Merchant Alliance, who read the message and shook their heads sadly before returning to their business deals. It found the warrior poets of the Stellar Republic, who composed beautiful songs about the tragedy, but sent no ships. It touched the crystal minds of the Silicon Confederation, who calculated the odds of success against the Ravagers and found them unacceptably low. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, in a small yellow star system that most civilizations had never heard of, a primitive radio telescope on the third planet picked up the signal. Dr. Lisa Martinez was working the night shift at the Arecibo Observatory when the computers began registering the unusual transmission. At first, she thought it was interference from a satellite, but as she analyzed the signal pattern, she realized she was looking at something extraordinary. "Jake, you need to see this," she called to her colleague Jake Thompson, who was monitoring deep space communications from his station across the room. Jake walked over and studied the data scrolling across Lisa's screens. His eyes widened as he saw the mathematical patterns embedded in the signal. "This is artificial," he said. "This is definitely an intelligent transmission, but it's coming from outside our solar system." "Way outside," Lisa confirmed. The signal originated from the Kepler 442 system, about 1,200 light-years from Earth. "But Jake, look at this part of the transmission. These frequency modulations, they're not random. They're linguistic patterns. Someone is trying to talk to us." Within hours, the strange transmission had been forwarded to every major government and research institution on Earth. Military leaders, scientists, and linguists worked around the clock to decode the alien message. When they finally broke through the communication protocols and heard Lyra's desperate plea for help, the world changed forever. Colonel Sam Hayes stood in the Pentagon briefing room and looked at the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we are not alone in the universe, and someone out there needs our help." Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the command center of Earth's most advanced space facility and stared at the holographic display showing the Kepler 442 system. 3 days had passed since the alien distress signal had been decoded, and Earth's governments were still arguing about what to do. Some wanted to ignore the message completely. Others wanted to send only a research vessel to make peaceful contact. Kate knew that both approaches would be too late to save the dying aliens. "Admiral, we're receiving updated transmissions from the Zephyrian colony," reported Lieutenant Ben Parker from his communication station. "The signal is much weaker now. Their power systems are failing." Kate nodded grimly. She had been listening to the increasingly desperate reports from Commander Lyra Voss for the past 18 hours. The alien colony was down to its last defensive positions. The creatures attacking them, these Ravagers, had broken through most of their barriers and were closing in on the civilian shelters. "What's the status of our rescue fleet?" Kate asked. "The UES Defiance, Resilience, and Determination are loaded and ready for departure," replied Captain Rick Sullivan, who had been chosen to lead the mission. Rick was a veteran of Earth's space wars. A tough man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of working with dangerous equipment. We have full crews, medical supplies, and enough firepower to level a small moon. Kate looked around. The room met the faces of the people who would be making humanity's first contact with alien life. They were not diplomats or scientists, though both were represented in the crew. They were soldiers, engineers, doctors, and technicians who had volunteered for a mission that most experts believed was impossible. Dr. Amy Shun stepped forward from the medical team briefing area. She was young for a chief medical officer, but she had trained in battlefield medicine during Earth's recent conflicts. Admiral, we don't know anything about alien biology. I've packed everything from basic antibiotics to advanced surgical equipment, but we might not be able to help them even if we win the fight. We'll figure it out when we get there, Kate replied. Chief Engineer Bobby Kim, are the ships ready for extended combat operations? Bobby looked up from his technical display, his uniform stained with grease from last-minute repairs. The ships are as ready as we can make them in 3 days, Admiral. I've installed our newest plasma cannon systems and enough spare parts, too. Rebuild the engines twice. But we're still using experimental faster-than-light drives. We won't know if they can handle combat stress until we're actually fighting. Captain Maria Santos, commander of the U's Resilience, spoke from her position near the tactical display. Admiral, we need to discuss rules of engagement. We don't know anything about these Ravagers, except that they're attacking peaceful aliens. We don't know their capabilities, their numbers, or their intentions. The rules are simple, Kate said firmly. We're going to save those people, whatever it takes. Captain Dan Foster of the U.E.'s Termination raised his hand. Admiral, what? If we're walking into a trap, what if this is some kind of test or deception? Humanity has never encountered aliens before. We don't know their politics or their motivations. Kate had considered this possibility, but she had dismissed it after listening to the raw emotion in Commander Lyra Voss's voice. The fear and desperation were real. No species could fake that kind of genuine terror. I've listened to their transmissions, Kate said. These people are dying, and they're asking for help. That's all I need to know. The preparation for humanity's first interstellar rescue mission happened with remarkable speed. Earth's military-industrial complex, built through centuries of conflict and competition, shifted into high gear. Weapons that had never been tested in space combat were loaded onto the ships. Medical equipment designed for human biology was hastily modified with universal adapters. Food supplies were packed alongside ammunition, and diplomatic translation software was installed next to targeting computers. Private Nick Torres finished loading supplies onto the U's Defiance and wiped sweat from his forehead. He was part of the ground assault team, trained for close combat in hostile environments. His backpack contained enough explosives to destroy a city block, along with medical supplies and emergency rations. Like most of the soldiers volunteering for the mission, Nick had grown up in Earth's rougher neighborhoods where survival meant learning to fight. You nervous about meeting aliens? Asked Sergeant Lisa Murphy as she checked her weapon systems. Lisa had served in 3 different Earth conflicts and had trained soldiers in urban warfare tactics. Her squad was known for being able to adapt to any combat situation. Not really, Nick replied. Fighting is fighting, whether it's humans or monsters or aliens. The important thing is protecting people who can't protect themselves. Dr. Lisa Martinez worked frantically in the communication center, programming translation protocols and studying the linguistic patterns in the Zephyrian transmissions. She had managed to establish basic communication with Commander Lyra Voss, though the conversations were limited to simple concepts and desperate status reports. The Zephyrians are completely different from us, Lisa explained to the crew during the final briefing. Their language is based on harmonic frequencies rather than discrete words. They think in terms of cooperation and symbiosis. The concept of warfare seems to be almost foreign to their minds. That explains why they're losing, muttered Lieutenant Colonel Jim Watson, the mission's anthropologist. Jim had studied human conflict throughout history and understood that peaceful civilizations rarely survived contact with aggressive ones. These ravagers probably expected easy prey. Captain Sullivan stood up and addressed the assembled crews. People, we're about to make history. We're going to be the first humans to meet aliens, and we're going to do it by kicking down the door and saving their lives. I want everyone to remember that we represent our entire species. We show them what humanity is capable of when someone needs help. The 3 ships of Earth's first interstellar fleet launched from the orbital construction facility with minimal ceremony. There was no time for speeches or celebrations. Every hour of delay meant more alien civilians would die. The ships accelerated quickly away from Earth, their experimental faster-than-light drives charging for the jump to hyperspace dot as the fleet prepared to jump. Kate Morrison received a final transmission from the Zephyrian colony. Commander Lyra Voss's voice was weak and filled with static, but her message was clear. To anyone listening, this may be our final transmission. The Ravagers have broken through our last barriers. They are using acid weapons to dissolve our shelters. We have perhaps 6 hours before they reach the civilian population. If someone is coming to help us, please hurry. The transmission cut to static as the colony's communication array was destroyed by enemy fire. All ships jump to hyperspace, Captain Sullivan commanded. Maximum speed to Kepler 442. We have 6 hours to cross 1,200 light years and win a war against an enemy we've never seen. The 3 Earth ships disappeared into the swirling colors of hyperspace, carrying humanity's first warriors into the wider galaxy. The 3 Earth ships dropped out of hyperspace directly into hell. Captain Rick Sullivan watched through the main view screen of the UES. Defiance as the Kepler 442 system revealed itself in all its terrible beauty. The planet below was a world of crystal cities and silver spires, but half of it was covered in orange flames and black smoke. Massive biomechanical ships hung in orbit like diseased organs, their living hulls pulsing with veins of toxic light. Jesus Christ, whispered Lieutenant Ben Parker from his tactical station. Look at the size of those things. The Ravager ships were unlike anything in Earth's military databases. They appeared to be grown rather than built, with hulls that rippled, like skin and weapon ports that opened like mouths. Some were as large as Earth's biggest space stations, covered in spines and tentacles that moved with alien purpose. They surrounded the dying planet like predators circling wounded prey. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface, reported Chief Engineer Bobby Kim. The aliens weren't kidding about biomechanical war beasts. Some of these creatures are the size of city blocks. Sullivan activated the fleet communication system. Defiance to all ships. We have multiple hostiles in orbit and on the surface. This is going to be a fighting retreat from the moment we announce ourselves. All weapon systems are authorized for immediate use. Captain Maria Santos responded from the U's Resilience. Copy that, Rick. My ship is loaded for bear and ready to dance. Captain Dan Foster's voice crackled through from the UE said determination. Confirmed Defiance. Let's show these monsters what Earth hospitality looks like. Sullivan opened a communication channel to the planet's surface, hoping the alien commander was still alive to receive it. Kepler 442c, this is Captain Rick Sullivan of the Earth vessel Defiance, responding to your distress call. Commander Voss, if you can hear this, take cover. Immediately, we are going loud. Deep underground in the failing command bunker of New Haven Colony, Commander Lyra Voss heard the impossible transmission through speakers damaged by constant bombardment. She stared at her communication officer with disbelief written across her pale blue features. "Did he say Earth?" Keeper Tam asked weakly. "I have never heard of this world in any galactic database." "Neither have I," Lyra replied, but hope flickered in her large dark eyes for the first time in days. "But someone answered our call." Above the planet, the battle began with devastating efficiency. The human ships moved in formation, their sleek metal hulls reflecting the light of the alien sun as they approached the Ravager fleet. The enemy ships turned to face them, biomechanical weapons charging with sickly green energy. The Ravagers fired first, launching streams of acid and biological projectiles at the approaching Earth vessels. The attacks were powerful enough to dissolve most known metals, but they struck the humans' energy shields and dispersed harmlessly into space. "Their weapons are designed for peaceful targets," observed Lieutenant Parker as he analyzed the enemy attack patterns. "They've never fought anyone who shoots back," Sullivan smiled grimly. "Then let's give them an education. All ships, open fire." The response from Earth's fleet was immediate and overwhelming. Plasma cannons erupted in brilliant streams of superheated energy, punching through Ravager hulls like bullets through paper. Missile launchers released clouds of smart projectiles that sought out enemy weapon systems with mechanical precision. The humans fought with a coordination and aggression that the Ravagers had never encountered. The largest Ravager ship, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a battleship, turned its attention to the UE's Defiance. Biomechanical tentacles reached out toward the human vessel, trying to grasp it for close combat feeding. "Negative contact," Sullivan said calmly as he maneuvered his ship away from the grasping appendages. "Bobby, give me everything the engines have got." The Defiance accelerated directly toward the enemy flagship, its plasma cannons charging for maximum output. At the last possible moment, Sullivan pulled the ship into a sharp climb, raking the Ravager's upper hull with concentrated fire. The enemy ship screamed through space radio frequencies, a sound like a dying animal that made the human crews wince. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, the real horror was taking place. Ravager ground forces had broken through the last Zephyrian barriers and were approaching the civilian shelters. The creatures were nightmarish combinations of organic tissue and mechanical parts, designed for maximum terror as much as combat. "Effectiveness. Sullivan to ground teams," the captain announced. "We need boots on the ground immediately. The civilians won't last another hour." Sergeant Lisa Murphy led the first wave of human soldiers down to the planet's surface and heavily armored drop pods. Her squad included Private Nick Torres, Corporal Janet Lee, and 12 other volunteers who had trained for urban warfare in Earth's most dangerous cities. They landed in the ruins of what had once been a beautiful crystal garden, now blackened by acid burns and explosive damage. "Holy hell," Nick muttered as he saw his first Ravager ground unit. The creature was 12 feet tall and moved on 6 mechanical legs, its upper body a mass of organic weapons and sensory organs. It was feeding on the crystal remains of a Zephyrian building, literally consuming the city. "Contact front, Lisa," announced calmly as she raised her plasma rifle. "Multiple hostiles, range 200 meters. Weapons free." The human soldiers opened fire with precision that would have impressed their drill instructors back on Earth. Every shot was calculated, every movement deliberate. They advanced through the ruins using cover and suppression tactics, perfected through centuries of human warfare. The Ravagers had never fought enemies like this. They were accustomed to peaceful species that ran in panic or surrendered immediately. The humans not only fought back, but seemed to enjoy the challenge. Nick Torres actually laughed as he placed explosive charges on a Ravager war beast, bringing down the massive creature with tactics he had learned as a child in Detroit's gang wars. "This is easier than fighting humans," Nick reported to his squad. "Leader, these things don't know how to adapt." Dr. Amy Chun established the first human medical station in the remains of a Zephyrian hospital. When the first alien refugees were brought to her for treatment, she faced the challenge of providing medical care to a species she had never seen before. The Zephyrians were fragile compared to humans, with thin, translucent skin and large eyes that had trouble with Earth's bright medical lights. "They're suffering from shock and malnutrition," Amy reported to Captain Sullivan. "But their basic biology is similar enough to ours that I can help them. Their children are the priority." Commander Lyra Voss was brought to the human medical. Stationed on a stretcher, her left arm badly injured by Ravager acid. She looked up at Dr. Chun with wonder and fear, seeing her first human face. "You came," Lyra whispered in her musical voice. "You actually came to help us." Amy smiled as she began treating the alien commander's wounds. "That's what we do. When someone calls for help, humans answer." Above the planet, the space battle was reaching its conclusion. The Ravager fleet, designed for attacking defenseless colonies, was no match for Earth's military technology. Captain Santos and Captain Foster coordinated their attack runs with mechanical precision, systematically destroying every enemy vessel in orbit. "Last hostile neutralized," Santos reported as the final Ravager ship exploded in a ball of green. "Fire. Orbital space is clear." Sullivan looked down at the planet where his ground teams were still fighting. "Good work, people. Now let's finish cleaning up down there and meet our new neighbors properly." Dr. Lisa Martinez sat across from Commander Lyra Voss in the ruins of what had once been the most beautiful conference room on Kepler, 442c. The crystal walls were cracked and blackened by acid burns, but enough remained to show the elegant curved architecture that the Zephyrians favored. Between them sat a translation device that Martinez had jury-rigged from Earth computers and Zephyrian biotechnology. "Your species fascinates and terrifies us," Lyra said, her musical voice carrying harmonics that the human ear could barely detect. "We have been studying your soldiers for 3 days now, and we cannot understand how you exist." Martinez smiled gently. She had spent the past 72 hours learning to communicate with the aliens, and every conversation revealed new differences between their species. "What do you mean?" Lyra gestured toward the window where they could see human soldiers working alongside Zephyrian civilians to clear debris from the city streets. Private Nick Torres was teaching a group of young Zephyrians how to safely handle unexploded Ravager biomines, while Sergeant Lisa Murphy coordinated the reconstruction of a damaged shelter. "Your people move through this destruction as if it were natural to them," Lara explained. "They do not seem disturbed by the violence or the death. They make jokes while they work." "How is this possible?" "Earth is a dangerous place," Martinez replied carefully. "We evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most species. Violence and death are part of our everyday experience." Lyra's large dark eyes widened with horror. "You mean your homeworld is naturally violent? Your own planet tries to kill you?" "Every day," Martinez confirmed. "We have weather systems that can destroy entire cities, animals that hunt us for food, diseases that kill millions, natural disasters that reshape continents, competition for resources that leads to war. Earth doesn't care whether we live or die, so we learn to fight for survival." The Zephyrian commander was quiet for a long moment, trying to process this information. Her people had evolved on a world with gentle seasons, abundant resources, and no large predators. They had never needed to develop the aggressive survival instincts that drove human behavior. "According to our galactic classification system," Lyra said slowly, "your Earth would be rated as a Class 12 death world. Such planets are considered impossible for intelligent life to develop on. Yet you not only survived, but became the most effective warriors we have ever encountered." Captain Maria Santos entered the conference room, carrying a datapad filled with engineering reports. She had been working with Zephyrian technicians to repair the colony's damaged infrastructure, and her clothes were covered with crystal dust and biomechanical lubricants. "How's the cultural exchange going?" Santos asked as she sat down next to Martinez. "We're trying to understand each other," Martinez replied. "Commander Voss was just explaining how their people view violence and conflict." Lyra turned to Santos with curiosity. "Captain, may I ask you a personal question? When you were fighting the Ravagers, did you feel fear?" "Of course," Santos answered honestly. "Fear keeps you alive in combat. But we're trained to use fear as a tool, not let it control us." "But how do you function when you are afraid?" Lyra asked. "When my people experience fear, we become paralyzed. We cannot think clearly or make decisions. It is a survival mechanism that tells us to hide till danger passes." Santos considered this for a moment. "Human fear works differently. When we're scared, our bodies produce chemicals that make us stronger, faster, and more alert. Fear makes us fight harder, not run away." Dr. Amy Chun joined the conversation as she finished her medical rounds in the temporary hospital. She had been treating both human and Zephyrian patients, learning about alien biology while providing care to the survivors of the attack. "The biological differences between our species are remarkable," Amy reported as she sat down with the group. "Zephyrian physiology is optimized for cooperation and environmental harmony. Their nervous systems are designed to share emotions and thoughts with others of their kind. They literally feel each other's pain." "That explains why they have no concept of warfare," Santos observed. "If hurting others causes you to feel their pain directly, violence becomes self-defeating." Lyra nodded sadly. "This is why we were helpless against the Ravagers. When we saw them destroying our cities and killing our people, we felt their agony as if it were our own. Many of our defenders simply collapsed from emotional overload." Chief Engineer Bobby Kim appeared in the doorway, his uniform stained with various alien fluids and mechanical oils. He had been working around the clock to integrate human technology with Zephyrian biosystems, creating hybrid solutions that neither species could have developed alone. "Ladies, you need to see this," Bobby announced excitedly. "The Zephyrians have biotechnology that makes our best computers look like pocket calculators. Their entire city is grown from living crystal that can repair itself and adapt to changing conditions." He activated a holographic display that showed the colony's infrastructure in 3 dimensions. The Zephyrian buildings were not just structures, but living organisms that responded to their environment like plants reaching toward sunlight. "Their technology is based on symbiosis rather than domination," Bobby explained. "Instead of forcing materials to do what they want, they cooperate with natural processes to achieve their goals. It's brilliant, but completely different from human engineering." Lieutenant Colonel Jim Watson entered the conference room carrying his anthropological notes and observations. He had been documenting the first contact between human and alien civilizations, recording everything for future study. "I've been analyzing the cultural implications of this encounter," Jim announced. "The Zephyrians represent one extreme of intelligent evolution, complete cooperation and harmony with their environment. Humans represent the opposite extreme, aggressive adaptation and domination through conflict." "Is one approach better than the other?" Martinez asked. "Neither approach is superior by itself," Jim replied. "The Zephyrians created a beautiful, peaceful civilization, but they were helpless when faced with existential threat. Humans developed incredible survival skills, but we've also caused tremendous destruction and suffering throughout our history." Captain Rick Sullivan joined the group as the day shift ended and the evening reconstruction work began. He had been coordinating with Admiral Morrison back on Earth, reporting on the success of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. Earth Command is very interested in establishing permanent diplomatic relations with the Zephyrians, Sullivan announced. They want to create a formal alliance between our species. Lyra looked around the table at the humans who had saved her people. We would be honored to form such an alliance. But I must ask, what do you want from us in return for your help? The question surprised the humans. They had responded to the distress call because helping others was simply what humans did when faced with suffering. The idea that they might want something in return had not occurred to most of them. We want to learn, Martinez said after a moment. Your biotechnology could help us solve environmental problems on Earth. Your methods of peaceful cooperation could teach us to reduce conflict in our own society. And we want to protect you, Santos added. The galaxy apparently has more species like the Ravagers. Peaceful civilizations need defenders. Amy Chun nodded in agreement. We want to establish medical exchange programs. Human battlefield medicine, combined with Zephyrian biohealing techniques, could save lives across multiple species. Lyra smiled, the first genuine expression of joy that the humans had seen from her since their arrival. Then we truly can help each other. Your strength can protect us from those who would do us harm, and our knowledge can help you build rather than destroy. As the sun set over the damaged but recovering colony, humans and Zephyrians worked side by side to repair the crystal cities and tend to the wounded. Children from both species played together in the temporary shelters, their laughter echoing through the ruins as a promise of a better future. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442c, Captain Rick Sullivan stood in the most unusual diplomatic meeting room in galactic history. The chamber was half human engineering and half Zephyrian bioarchitecture, with metal walls flowing seamlessly into living crystal formations that pulsed with soft blue light. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table that had grown from the floor overnight, their various forms creating a bizarre assembly of galactic civilization. The human intervention in the Kepler system has created unprecedented ripple effects throughout known space, announced Coordinator Thex of the Galactic Council, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms who spoke through a mechanical translation device. Word of your species' military capabilities has reached every corner of our territories. Sullivan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He had never wanted to be a diplomat, but Earth Command had insisted that the hero of humanity's first alien contact serve as their representative to the galactic community. His blunt military style had initially shocked the other species, but over time they had come to appreciate his direct honesty. We didn't fight the Ravagers to impress anyone, Sullivan said firmly. We fought them because the Zephyrians asked for help, and we don't ignore people in trouble. That is precisely what disturbs many of our member civilizations, replied Ambassador Kree of the Peaceful Alliance, a floating jellyfish-like creature whose thoughts were translated through bioluminescent color patterns. Your species exhibits aggressive tendencies that most evolved civilizations have eliminated from their behavioral patterns. Commander Lyra Voss, now serving as the Zephyrian representative to the Council, spoke up in defense of her human allies. The qualities that you call aggressive are the same qualities that saved my people from extinction. Human courage and determination are not flaws to be corrected, but gifts to be appreciated. Dr. Lisa Martinez, who had become Earth's chief xenolinguist and cultural liaison, activated a holographic display showing this reconstruction progress on Kepler 442c. The images revealed a remarkable fusion of human and Zephyrian technology, with crystal cities strengthened by metal frameworks and biomechanical gardens growing around industrial equipment. Our 2 species have learned more from each other in 6 months than either of us discovered in centuries of isolation, Martinez explained to the assembled representatives. Human engineering has made Zephyrian cities capable of surviving future attacks, while Zephyrian biotechnology has taught us to work with natural systems instead of against them. The display showed human children playing with young Zephyrians in parks where Earth flowers grew alongside alien crystal formations. Dr. Amy Chun had established the first interspecies medical school, where human doctors learned biohealing techniques, while Zephyrian healers studied emergency medicine developed for battlefield conditions. The success of the Human-Zephyrian alliance has inspired similar cooperation throughout our territories, admitted Coordinator Vex. The Merchants Guild reports increased trade between species that previously had minimal contact. The Research Collective has begun joint projects that combine the knowledge of multiple civilizations. Admiral Kate Morrison appeared on the communication screen from Earth Command, her image projected into the meeting chamber through quantum entanglement, technology that the humans had learned from their new allies. A question before this council, Morrison said from her office 1,200 light-years away, is whether the galactic community is ready to accept that diversity of approach makes all of us stronger. Humans offer protection and aggressive problem-solving. The Zephyrians provide biotechnology and peaceful cooperation. Other species contribute their own unique capabilities. Ambassador Vex of the Silicon Confederation, a being made of living crystal similar to Zephyrian architecture, but with a completely mechanical mindset, process this information through visible computational displays. Analysis indicates that human military intervention against the Ravager horde has eliminated a threat that cost our civilizations an estimated 47 colony worlds over the past century. Vex announced. The economic and population benefits of this action far exceed any cultural disruption caused by human aggressive tendencies. Captain Maria Santos entered the chamber carrying the latest reports from the joint exploration missions that Ha